Unbiased Trades here, and today we're going over backtesting versus forward testing. Both of these are essential techniques that traders should use for testing their trading strategies. Both techniques are critical in ensuring that a strategy is viable and profitable, and both do depending on what market you trade, but I'll try and cover as much of that as possible. Now, first off, what are they? So both simplified down, backtesting is simply a process where you evaluate your trading strategies using historical data. This process involves a combination of techniques such as P&L simulations, data sets defying probabilities, and feel free to book a call below if you want to learn about the 5 keys to backtesting, where I kind of walk you through how to get started. The goal is to assess how a strategy would have performed in the past, given the criteria and rules for that setup. The results of a backtest can be then used to optimize the strategy and find any potential weaknesses or introduce any new custom data points to measure the probabilities of those. On the other hand, forward testing involves using out-of-sample data to test a trading strategy in a theoretical real-time environment. In this method, you train and optimize your setup using a certain amount of data from your dataset, then test it using out-of-sample data to see how the performance differs. This allows you to identify potential overfitting and underfitting, and will most likely be the last step before you take a strategy live on a small size or maybe even paper trade it real time. Now, for the pros and cons to backtesting, for pros, one, backtesting provides a comprehensive historical analysis of how a strategy would have performed, which then can be used to refine and optimize the strategy. Two, the process saves a huge amount of real-time testing if you are only to test a strategy by trading it every day, for example. Three, backtesting can help traders avoid costly mistakes by testing the strategy against historical data before using it in the real market. 4, the results are historically correct, so traders can rely on them to make better informed decisions compared to just gut feelings. 5, backtesting increases your conviction as you're able to see historically what the trade performance should be, and then also you're able to test the baseline of that strategy compared to how you're actually trading it manually. Lastly, it allows you to test new ideas quite quickly and introduce them as custom data points for even deeper analysis of your setup. Now, there are a couple of cons. So first, backtesting is quite limited to historical data, which does not 100% reflect future market conditions, and there is a bit of there that you have to have a compromise for. 2, the process is highly dependent on the quality of data you use, and traders need to ensure that the data is clean and reliable. For this, I always recommend to get someone who knows how to code trading-related projects and know the best data providers for your certain project. If you are doing this manually, just make sure you're aware you're on a linear scale. So the more time you put in, the more likely you will make a error inputting some data. So just be aware of this and try and take it slow if you're doing manual backtesting. Not everything can be quantified better than a human eye or brain, so it is important to try and break down these ideas into repeatable and measurable components, otherwise backtesting will be useless as well. 4, it can be difficult to incorporate all the additional factors that play into the market, such as the appropriate amount of slippage based on what ticker or market you're trading into your P&L simulations. For example, in small caps, it can also be hard to factor in locate fees. A small fix I recommend for this is simply to take the median fee amount and apply it to all tickers. Definitely isn't the one and be all approach, but I think it's better than nothing. Now, the pros and cons to forward testing. Forward testing provides a more accurate assessment of how a strategy would perform in the real market using out-of-sample data, because you aren't optimizing on that part of data. So technically it is unseen data, which means it should react the same as how the market is giving you unseen data every single day. It allows traders to gain practical experience without risking real money, which builds confidence and reduces emotional biases if you've seen how it's performed in a walk-forward simulation. Traders can test the strategy against the changing market conditions and see how it performs without optimizing them preemptively before seeing it. Being able to determine if you overfit or underfit the model by assessing its performance on a walk forward. For reference, it should normally result in a similar statistics based on your in-sample and out-of-sample, with some allowability for it to perform a bit worse, because it would be very strange if it performed way better on out-of-sample data when you've just optimized for in-sample, for example. Now, there are a couple cons. The process can be very time-consuming depending on what market you wish to forward test. For example, for NinjaTrader on futures, it is very fast and easy to use. However, to do it in small caps, it can be a lot more complex to understand how you should structure your out-of-sample data. What I normally recommend is to use 1 whole year of data and use like 6 months for your in-sample and then 6 months for your in-sample, or you could do different amounts, but That's normally what I recommend because the year-on-year change of volume and volatility really does change quite a lot. So I'd recommend to do it in a year as it kind of keeps mostly the same. Obviously, it's not perfect, but that's what I recommend. Two is data quality. The accuracy and completeness of the out of sample data can significantly impact the results. So make sure you are using data that is reliable. This could be through Polygon, through Alpaca, through end of day historical data, for example, if you're using APIs, or if you're doing it manually, then make sure you're recording the right data. Otherwise, if you don't, it's pretty much useless. Three, the limited sample size. So if you don't have too many samples, if you're doing it manually, for example, and you only got 50 to 100, this won't be a very good exercise for you to do, and you won't really find significant conclusions from testing the strategy this way. So I would always recommend about 200 to 300, maybe even more if possible. For me, for example, in small caps, I normally test about 500 to 500 samples, and that gives you a very good conclusion of data. Now, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, please like and share it to anyone else who might be interested.